I didn't notice it at the time, but looking back, I definitely was sliding into depression, periods of mild depression. The happiest day of my life was the day all my kids got into school and I'd have some time to myself. Always felt super selfish for having that feeling. Loved my kids, loved it, but it was not an easy time for me in my life. And so as soon as I had a little space and the kids were in school, now I have time to work on the next problem. Always I'm the problem, but my next problem is I got to fix myself in my marriage. I've got to figure out what's going on between me and Rob, and we've got to fix this. I'm going to fix it. I'm the fixer.
Around what year is this?
So I'm going to say 2010-ish.
Oh, okay. Now we're up to 2010.
Yeah, right, I don't know. That whole time, it's such a blur, John.
It is a blur.
Like,
it is.
When you have little kids, and I'm just serving in the church and doing, and I mean, just serving and calling after calling. And I loved working with the young women. There was so much I loved about that time and loved that word. Socially, it was hard for me. Socially, it's always been hard for me. It's been hard for me to be a Mormon socially. A lot of like wanting to keep up with the Joneses kind of feel within myself. Even the friends that I had, I never could really feel like they were really my friends. It's a lot on me. I just never felt like I meshed. Like the things that people wanted to talk about were not the things I was interested in talking about. I've always kind of wanted to have the deeper conversations. So I don't know, things were just still kind of a mismatch in my life, right?
And you're going to fix your marriage.
And I'm going to fix my marriage. I'm going to figure it out. So I started finding retreats and I started finding books and I found Oprah's Super Soul Sunday,
yes!
Which I just started listening to all the people on Oprah's Super Soul Sunday. And I just remember I actually found some really good groups. I found like support groups. I found support groups for marriage. And I found some that were actually not put on or sponsored by our faith. They were sponsored by evangelicals and other things. And I remember meeting these other women and I remember seeing how they would call on their faith. I remember seeing how they pray. I remember seeing how they'd invite everyone to pray with them. And I remember feeling like these guys have so much more of the Spirit than I do. What is going on?
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
That could be dangerous to a faith.
Oh, yeah. This was kind of like the start of this. I started saying, what is going on? And then I'd have these other Mormon women who were being told by their bishops on how to fix their marriages that were horrific, that I just felt like were terrible. And I remember just slowly over that period of time from like 2010 to 2013, I just remember more and more creeping into my consciousness of, okay, when I listened to Eckhart Tolle and Brene Brown, and this is where I found Richard Rohr was on Super Soul Sunday, I remember thinking, these people have something really healing and really applicable to my life. And like, I actually have skills that I can use in my marriage and with myself. And slowly I'm listening to General Conference and it's sounding like it's not holding that same kind of feeling for me. And at times when they would talk about marriage or talk about other things, I was starting to think, this is really not good advice. What is wrong with us? Like, we're really good I started framing it in my mind, like, we're so good at third world problems and helping with people, and we suck at first world, like, interrelational problems. This is what started cropping up for me as I started educating myself more on.
Sounds like first half of life and second half of life.
A little bit.
That's a Richard Rohr preview. For those who don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It just started being like, things just started to feel off for me. And it was really subtle. I never really let myself cognitively go there. And, I do want to mention one thing. I missed a really big part of this story, which is that probably back in 2004-ish, my nephew left the church. My nephew I was very, very close to because my sister, who's 9 years older than me, had him at 21 or something. And so he was only 12 years younger. He's 12 years younger than I am. And he was my little buddy. I babysat him all, when he was a baby, spent lots of time with him. It's very, very close to this particular nephew. And he was always a super straight arrow and was doing all the things and just started having huge questions when he hit BYU and wasn't sure he was going to go on a mission, decided to go on a mission, and then ran into an investigator who handed him a bunch of information, and it blew his mind. And while he was on his mission, his mission president actually gave him permission to have conversations with me. I would have conversations on the phone with him, because I'm trying to keep him in the faith. So during that time, I learned all the stuff, all the things. It's interesting because I think just growing up, my mom must have read things along the way and known things. Like I knew about Joseph's polygamy. I knew about seer stones. I knew about things already growing up. But whatever I didn't know, I found out during that time.
Wow.
And I took I went straight to Fair Mormon and I took a hardcore apologist stance. So I had all the answers for my nephew. And I was just astounded when none of that worked and he came home from his mission and and went and lived his life. But anyway, I think that's important. I think it's important to my story because I knew all the things. I knew all the historical problems and I had a pat answer for all of it. So anyway, I'm just living proof that telling people all the things when they're not ready to go there
works.
Does not work at all.
It does work temporarily.
Well, I mean, telling me all those things didn't shake my faith, is what was my point.
Okay, sorry, I misheard you.
Yeah, it did not shake my faith at all.
Okay.
If you're not ready to hear it and go there, it is not going to necessarily shake your faith to hear everything about the Book of Abraham.
What I thought you were saying is when an apologetic group provides random answers.
Oh, it totally works.
It's not the substance of the answers so much as that there's something. Seemingly smart people that seem to have answers.
Yes.
And that worked.
And if there's an option at all, however infinitesimal, then you go with that.
Yeah,
right?
That's what Fair Mormon is.
It is. And I was so grateful for them at the time. Like, oh, they've heard of it. They know what blood atonement is. Let's chat about that, So Fair
gave you all the answers.
Fair gave me all the answers. I had all the answers and I'm good. And I just know so much. I was this faithful girl bringing up the hat and the stone, like way back when. And people were like, what? And I'm like, no, really? Apparently there was a hat and a stone, but totally no problem. No problem at all. So go back to that time when I'm starting to notice things,
now we're back to
and I'm noticing the evangelicals, and they are so much more full of the Spirit than I am. and it really did start to eat at me. Like, what is the gift of the Holy Ghost? I don't even understand this. What does this even mean? Because these people seem to have a lot more of a gift than I do. Because I still have not gotten these spiritual experiences. I really have not had them. I mean, I prayed about who to marry. I prayed about moving to California. I prayed about which school to go to, Utah or BYU. I never got answers. Never. But that made sense to me because I was never good enough for the answer.
Mary Rob. Did you pray to Mary Rob?
Oh, yeah.
And?
Nothing.
Oh.
Nothing. So I just thought, well, God must just trust me, and I've just got to trust him that if I'm heading into fire, that he'll knock me out of the way. That I didn't have any other way to frame it because it just didn't happen. But
so once you see all these spiritual non-Mormons,
I'm like, what is happening here? Okay. These people are like, they got it going on. I'm leaning into all of this new stuff, and my mind is being blown. And I'm loving all of it, and I'm getting more and more angry with some of the things that are happening in the church. And I remember mentioning it in one of my support groups, and this evangelical woman gave me this book, told me to read this book called The Furious Longing of God by Brennan Manning. And that book was paradigm shifting for me.
How so?
This God in this book loves you so, so, so much. It's called the furious longing of God. Like, what would it do for your life if you understood how deeply God loved you? And this guy had been a pastor, and he'd also been like homeless and breaking every commandment and talking about how God was with him, even when he was living under a viaduct, when he was doing horrible things, and when he was also a pastor.
Yeah, given your story, you're going to resonate with that.
I was like, you can have God with you? Like when you're not perfect? What is happening? I don't understand this, but I just remember thinking there was such a hope. There was such a flood of like, this makes sense to me, that I've been mistaken this whole time. And what if this is who God is? It opened up something for me.
Are you getting emotional right now?
Yeah.
Why?
Because what could that have done for my life, knowing that God loved me for my whole life?
You never somehow felt that?
No, I was never worthy of it.
Okay, I don't want to disrupt your feelings, but like, I'm a child of God. He has sent me here. He's given me parents kind and dear. He loves me. Like the whole Mormon primary experience is wrapped around God loving us, and we're children of God, and God's a loving Heavenly Father. How did that not seep through?
That's a very good question. I would focus on, this is what I do. I scan the thing and I focus on the one line before it grows too late. It's a great song, but it's before it grows too late, right? Like there's always the message of if you're this, then. If then. It made sense to me that that's what love was. Love was conditional. And this was the first time I'd ever let it into my heart that maybe it wasn't. Maybe there was some sort of source of unconditional love. And maybe, just maybe, I was okay. And
that's got to be paradigm shifting, learning that outside your faith, because you're like, wait a minute, number one, why am I not learning this in my faith?
Yep.
And number two, why is my one true faith not teaching this stuff?
Yep.
Right? Those are two separate things. It's like.
And then I start having conversations with my sister where I'm like, this book, like God's love is unconditional. And she's going, well, yeah. I'm like, no, we teach a conditionally loving God. That's the God I know. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. God's love is completely unconditional. Like we grew up in the same home.
Yeah, different people.
Get
like different messages.
She got that message loud and clear.
Yeah.
I did not.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, same church, same home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, then I hit a summer. This is probably, I think the first time I let myself say out loud, something's wrong here, was right at the beginning of 2014. And I remember telling one of my really close friends, like, I don't know what's happening here, but I'm really feeling like the leaders of our church are missing something, because I'm finding some of these things other places that are resonating with me more. And I don't understand this. And she was great. She was really affirming and was like, yeah, that can be really hard. And I don't think they all have it all figured out and, whatever, but still, super believing.
Is Rob getting nervous at this point yet?
Not yet.
Does he even know?
No, okay. Not really.
You're going in your own.
I'm kind of doing my own thing.
You're going on your own spiritual journey, and you're not necessarily really bringing him along with you.
No, I'm not really telling anybody. And then things kind of came to a head that summer, the summer of 2014. I had fallen into kind of one of my really, I would say, depressive states where it's summer, so I don't have to get the kids to school. It's all I can do to just even want to get up and feed them and take care of them. I'm just not happy as a stay-at-home mom. I've got a lot of guilt. I've got a lot of stuff going on. And
guilt?
Yeah, just always still. Yeah. The mom guilt and I'm not reading my scriptures enough. I'm not praying enough. I've still never gotten that Moroni 10-4 experience. I must not be good enough. I'm probably not doing a very good job of my callings. Nothing's ever quite up to snuff. My kids aren't the perfect little Mormon kids sitting in the pews. Like, my kids are hard and it's a reflection of me, and, just everything is hard. And so I just remember being really, really sad. And I just remember pleading to God to just let me know that he's there. Just let me know that this is real. And I remember having a conversation with one of my sisters who honestly is just one of those people that God talks to 24/7. She's just like, she's got him on the red line to God. And she's she's just so faithful and has always had such a deep connection to God. And I'm like, I don't get it. I don't have that. I don't have that. And I just remember having this conversation that it kind of broke me. So my sister is a very loving person and she wanted to help me. And for me, all I took in was, there's no good answer for this. God wouldn't do this to me, so it must be me. And the message came to me so loudly that this must be me. And I remember hanging up the phone and I lost it. I just lost it. I just saw my entire shelf crash before my eyes.
How so?
I just hit this point cognitively. I said to myself, that was the first time I'd ever let it sink in. What if none of this is true? Like, none of it with the church.
Why'd you ask that?
I think because I started to question if God was even real. Like, I hit this point where I felt like my sister is so spiritual and kind and smart, and I'm going to her with all of these questions, and none of the answers to me in that moment felt satisfying. And I remember thinking to myself, if this is the best we've got, maybe we don't have it. Maybe we don't have it. Because if my sister can't find an answer for me in this, I don't know if anyone can. So maybe it's all crap. Mm. How do I know it's not crap? I remember just having that distinct feeling of myself. How do I personally know this is not crap? I've never had anything to tell me. I've always just gone on, do it enough and it'll happen. And it's never happened for me. So how do I personally know? I know nothing. I don't even know if God's there. I don't know if this is just a story that everybody's been telling me my entire life. And it's like it did not occur to me until that moment. And it came to me in a moment and I was shattered. I don't know if I've ever cried so hard. I lost it. And I literally, at that moment, I remember thinking, I'm going back to square one. I literally believe nothing until I truly, in my heart, believe it. I took everything in my truth basket and tossed it out in a moment.
That's intense.
It was intense. It was super intense.